Hello, KR left a comment on my labs versus intimate strings versus solo strings video saying he'd like to see Spitfire solo strings, this one, versus BBC. And so we're literally, that's what this video is about. That's what we're doing. We're doing BBC Symphony Orchestras solo strings versus Spitfire's solo strings. Bear with me. So the main reason, in all honesty, except of course the mic positions to upgrade to Symphony Orchestral Pro, is the solo strings. In Core, you actually get the solo instruments for the other sections. It can be a bit deceptive. You do get the solo flutes, you get solo brasses, but you don't get any solo string options. Those only come with the Professional. And so really, if you're wanting to upgrade, you're going to be asking yourself, well, do I want to spend that extra money? Or would it be better off you getting solo strings? Or if you have BBC Professional, Symphony Orchestra Professional, is it even worth buying the solo strings? Because these might actually be better. So that's kind of the question we're going to try and answer, and how we're going to go about it. I have composed a piece and replicated it in each version, this and this. And I've got a couple of bit of extras, but that's like bass drum and bits and bobs that are all free and you can add yourself. But really, apples for apples, to see how it sounds. I've tried my best to replicate it as best as possible. And then after we've compared the pieces, talked about it, looked at the composition for a little bit, we're going to then talk about some things I've noticed as I composed this piece and worked with it, the different bits of software. Because with the Symphony Orchestra, it's its own dedicated plugin. While with solo strings, you could say it's old-fashioned, but it's with Contact. But then you have a lot of perks that come with Contact. And so without further ado, let's just jump into Logic Pro X. So this is the piece. I've tried my best to use a range of articulations and a range of playing. So right at the end of this piece, you have this legato. I say end of the piece. I wouldn't say the piece is finished, but it's in a state where I can show you. But we've got staccatos. We've got a little bit of pizzicato. We've got some legatos at the end and some collegno. So a little bit of everything. So this orange is the solo strings, and the green is the BBC, and this blue is honestly just free extra stuff. Quite literally, like this is just a sign player bass drum from one of their free libraries. So I've not got anything paid there. I have, however, if we press X, used Ozone 9 standard right at the end, just to add a little bit of dynamic control and some EQ, but that will be on both versions, so it shouldn't interfere as much. In all honesty, just wanted to be transparent. So what do we have here? Let's, I think, just jump in, as we said, and listen to some music. We will start off with the solo strings, and I will try and flick between the two. And in my own opinion, actually, both together sound really cool, but we're here to see which comes on top. And of course, we're going to want a little extras in there as well. So let's have some music. So that's the piece, and we've listened to a mix of everything there. In all honesty, both have their charms. I know with the legato section right at the end, I feel it was a lot easier to get a closer, more expressive sound than it was with the BBC Symphony Orchestra solo strings, and I could probably spend more time tweaking the solo strings to make, the BBC Symphony solo strings to make these green ones sound a bit better. I just felt I was spending a lot more time working these ones over than I was with the solo strings. But overall, both has their own unique sound. They sound different, evidently enough. And I guess apples for apples, you have 3 mic positions with these right here when one actually loads. And so you can see here we have 3, the close, the decatory, and the ambient microphone, while with BBC Symphony Orchestra Pro, what is it, like 21 microphones? It's absolutely ridiculous how many you actually have. And so you could mix it a little bit more. I just kept it on mix 1, and I just kept most of these, I believe, on just the decatory, so you could mix a sound a bit better. But I really like, overall, the honesty of the mic positions with Spitfire solo strings, the orange ones up here. The 3 mic positions are all you really need. The close is close, it's very close. Decatory is in the middle, ambient is right at the back. Of course, similar with these ones, and you do have a more range, and you can put them right bang in the middle, but the panning's all there, the positioning's all right with both of them, and in my opinion, in all honesty, you can't go wrong with either or of these. Using them together, as you did here in some parts, sounds really cool and just adds some more, I want to say volume, but texture, and just creates a bigger sound, which is obvious because you're adding more musicians, more samples. It's going to sound more real. It's going to sound better, putting these libraries together overall. But do you need both? Well, let's move into the pros and cons of these libraries. Firstly, with Contact. The beauty with Contact, and we'll see with this tremolo line up here, you'll notice I have a stack. Actually, we can't do that, so you can't see the stack. So all these are tremolo patches. We have longs cello, longs violin, and the tremolo longs in the viola as well. All 3 are there. With Contact, you can just stack them to your own pleasure, and these are the individual articulations as well, and they all play this one line up here, and that's the beauty of Contact. You can mix and match and put it all in one to create an ensemble sort of patch if you're being quick, making sure that this is an omni, or you put it all on the same MIDI region, unless you really want to split the channels and go into different channels to work with the modulation a bit more on one track. So you can really condense it with Contact, while you can't do this with BBC Symphony Orchestra. You can't stack samples. You only have this one right here. But saying that, on the actual general patch, you do have the legatos, which is really nice. So you can swap between using articulation sets. You can see here I have all my different articulation sets, so you can swap between articulations a lot easier than just key switches, at least I find. But you can swap between the legato and the shorts, while on the main patch for solo strings, you don't have that feature. It doesn't have the legato on the main one. When I say the main one, if we actually go into an instrument, scroll down all of this, click on here, the main one being these things right here. The legatos aren't on those. You actually have to go into this bit here, click on legato to get the legato patch, but they are quite complicated legato patches. And speaking of legato patches, I actually think the solo strings one are more expressive. The tremolo is a lot more present, a lot more expressive. I'm going to use that term again. And it's obvious, actually, if we go into a legato line here, which articulation within the legato is being done. So you can see here we have legato fingered, legato bowed, and legato portamento. So it's nice having that range. You can go between them. Really, really nice, really gorgeous and smooth legatos. I love working with them. But I don't know if this is a deal breaker for anyone. The double bass doesn't have a legato in the solo string library. It's the only one not to have a legato, but you do have a legato for that in the BBC Symphony Orchestral version. I don't know how many of you out there do a double bass legato line, but if you want one, it comes with the BBC Symphony Orchestral Pro. It doesn't come with Spitfire solo strings. I think that is important to note. Another thing to mention is round robins. For example, we do a lot of short passages, and especially in mock-ups, we love our shorts and we love sticking them all over the place. And if we actually look, well, there's the whole patch. You can see there's not a legato there. If we look in the nitty-gritty details here for the spiccatos, there we are. We can see 8 round robins, while with the staccatos and the pizzicatos, only 4. Moving into BBC Symphony Orchestra, I believe they have 5. Yeah, you can see it right there. 5 round robins, that's the collegno for the pizzicato, staccato and spiccato. So sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less, depending on what articulation, yeah, you're using between the libraries. But both still have a really nice realistic sound, and you're not going to have to worry too much about it sounding shotgunny, especially when you're going between velocity layers as well. There's so many variables. Another thing with the actual solo string is you do have multiple violins, so multiple options. So we have the virtuoso, the violin first desk, and violin progressive. So you have a range of different violins, but saying that, with the actual BBC Symphony Orchestral Pro, you have the entire orchestra. But at this point, I'm kind of seeing this video from the perspective of maybe you already have core and you're wondering to upgrade. Do I go for solo strings? This is already under the idea that you have the BBC Symphony Orchestral, one of the versions at least, even if it's just the Discover. Now, another thing to kind of compare is articulations as well, which overall you have all your important ones. If we have a look, so we'll try and put them side by side. What's one of my, there we go, we've got a whole violin there, and this is violin 1 leader. Let's minimize that. So comparatively, actually we could stack them like that. So we can see here we have a range of longs, flautando, consoldinos. We've got spiccato, staccato, pizzicato, Bartok pizzicatos, collegno, short harmonics, tremolos and trills. And when we compare that side by side, they're all there. I think short harmonics, do we have short harmonics here? Yep, we have short harmonics. Marcato, we don't have marcatos. I think that's how you pronounce it. Marcatos? Yeah. Apologies for those who are probably triggered. It's actually pronounced marcato, not marcato. It's marcato. That we don't have them on the solo, so that is a difference there. Is that a deal breaker? I'll let you decide. What else? Sol pont or sol tasto? Long sol tasto. We don't have a long sol tasto over here. And I think that's it. So there's slight differences, but very, I wouldn't say they're deal breakers. If you want a marcato, there you go. Of course, solo strings is a lot older product, while BBC Symphony Orchestra is relatively new. Now, those are honestly the major pros and cons, at least I felt, with working with them. Overall, solo strings I feel is more expressive. It's nice having the 3 compact mic positions. They're all you need. I don't feel like I've ever needed to bring it further back or further forward, while sometimes you can get a bit lost in the BBC Symphony Orchestra's mic positions with 21 and you just end up sticking with mix 1 and not getting into the nitty gritty. But ultimately, the decision's up to yours, which you think is better. You've heard the pieces there. I've tried my best. My opinion, when you're choosing, ultimately, I think it's going to be down to taste. I like both. I like them. I have both of them. I use both of them. I use both of them together. Of course, I use the BBCSO more for its ensemble, the bigger, I won't say ensemble, the individual groups. I don't use the solos as much as I probably should. I end up using the solo strings. I think that's more out of habit. I've had solo strings for a lot longer. I'm more used to that product. And making this making this piece has really shown me actually how good the leaders and the solos actually really are in this library, and I should use them more and mix them more. Of course, stacking them, as we've seen, makes it sound even better. If I had to choose, I guess the advantage of BBCSO is it's that one entire package. It's that one orchestra. It's that one plugin that fits everything. It's kind of the advantage of that. And when upgrading, instead of spending another, £349 on solo strings, they mix very well, as you can hear, they mix very well together. But having all the added perks as well that comes with solo strings, for the mic positions, for the other instruments, I think overall I'm veering more towards the BBCSO as as an entire package. If it was just simply the leaders versus solo strings, I think I would veer towards more solo strings. But as I said, the package, BBCSO, that's my opinion. What's yours? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if there's anything you feel you'd like me to compare, as we did with this video, it was a suggestion from somebody in the comments, KR. Thank you for that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, but I'll see you in the next one.